so glad you could come along.
I put a spell on you.
Grid is live. Initiate light cycle battle.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
For a safe trip, remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the cabin. Be sure to watch your children, and no smoking, please.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pirates and Princesses. This is Tom. I am with Cam.
Hello.
And we're here to give you some Disney news. That's what we do here on Pirates and Princesses. So thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, wherever you found this podcast.
Yeah.
And check out piratesandprincesses.net. And let's get into it. What are we going to talk about
There's
today?
lots to talk about today. Joe Rohde's getting a Disney legend.
I thought he was already.
Yeah, apparently not. We have information about some of the things going on with Marvel, Star Wars, a new Pooh-verse.
The Pooh-verse, yeah.
Pooh-verse, a horror universe.
Not Disney, but Disney adjacent.
Smellophants on parade.
Smellophants on parade.
George Lucas is suddenly even though he called Disney white slavers, is saying back the Disney board.
That's weird.
There's just so much. I don't even know where to start.
Well, yeah, let's start with Joe Rohde because I thought he was a Disney legend already.
So did I. He's a legend in our hearts.
He is. Joe Rohde is one of the most amazing Imagineers to come out of Disney like ever. Animal Kingdom was very much his baby, and he said he exited on his own during the pandemic. He went to Virgin. I think it was Virgin.
I know he worked there for a while, yes.
Yeah, but I personally feel like things weren't very good for him over there, or he got pushed out.
I don't know. I mean, at Disney?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's interesting because he just switched out the Imagineering president. They're having the person that was the chief creative officer likely to step in, and that was somebody they brought back everybody wanted. And now he's a Disney legend. Are they going to suddenly say, hey, we're bringing him back?
I hope so. I think if anybody should be put in charge of Imagineering, or at least be like the chief creative person, it should be Joe Rohde. Regardless, I know a lot of people when Animal Kingdom first opened, they thought it was boring, but Animal Kingdom is probably the best themed park in all of Disney.
That's probably true.
It's the most cohesive. The attention to detail is mind-boggling. Even on, let's just look at the queue. Just look at the queue for some of the attractions and just the amount of detail that goes into that. Even Avatar, Pandora. I don't like the movies, but I love the land.
I will tell you, on Expedition Everest, I thoroughly enjoyed Josh Gates. His pictures in there with the print I think it was the footprint he found. It was on one of his episodes of his show. I thought that was pretty fun. So here's the post that Rohde put on Instagram, thanking people because he's going to be made a Disney legend this year at D23.
Yeah.
He said, check it out. I'm honored along with some other pretty cool folks to join the 2024 class of Disney Legends at D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event. If you've never been, take it from me. It really is ultimate. While I'm flattered and proud to receive such recognition, the real honors go to the people who gave me a chance, the people who mentored and guided me, the people who forgave me when I did foolish things, the people who trusted me to direct them and lead them, the people who actually did the work with their own hands, my family who put up with decades of my coming and going, and not least the guests and audiences who receive all of our work with such enthusiasm. And regardless of whatever accomplishments warrants this honor, there will be no Disney legends at all if it wasn't for the most legendary Walt Disney himself, whose creative impact on an entire century will always far outpace any legends who trail in his wake. Wow, credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
As for me, I will have to decide whether I want to memorialize my handprints or figure out some way to press the side of my head with my earrings into the cement. In any case, see you there.
Yeah, so there are a couple things here. One, I am shocked that it's taken them this long to give him legend status.
Do you see the other ones are going to be? Harrison Ford, James Cameron, John Williams. John Williams isn't a legend either? Jamie Lee Curtis, Angela Bassett, and Miley Cyrus.
Wow, Miley Cyrus. Well, Miley Cyrus makes sense. John Williams, I mean, it's sort of weird because they were sort of like grafted. They were grafted and drafted into Disney. They weren't actually like Disney legends. Like we bought Star Wars, so
you'd think. Anyway,
he should go and he should thank J.K. Rowling for letting him do the Harry Potter theme song. That would be amazing.
I don't think that's going to happen.
But yeah, I mean, this is good to see. And also, James Cameron's going to be there and the two work together on Pandora. Mm-hmm. So that might be part of why they're doing it. But still, It is interesting that they're giving him this honor after they ousted the other head of Imagineering, and she was like the most bland, the blandest of the bland. Like the stuff she was doing was so not Disney. And then he comes in and he's all like, "Yeah, Walt Disney was the best." I'm like, you don't say. Like,
are you
I
allowed
wish.
to say that?
I can't believe that. In this day and age, we don't hear enough about Walt Disney from people working for Disney.
Right. Because Bob Iger is Disney. Anyway, I do appreciate him talking about how he wants to figure out how to press the side of his head in with his earrings. It's funny because when I used to be an art teacher, and the one year I was doing art, they had the kids trace their feet with their shoes on and then draw a sneaker, and then they had like the little footprints around the building. And I wasn't there that day. So when I came back and it was my turn to be at that school, they had me do mine, except I used my barefoot, and I traced my barefoot and put like little toe rings on it and all this like painted nails and everything else. Cause it just reminded me of that, because creative people are creative. Not that I'm saying I'm creative, but I was an art teacher. Of course I was creative.
You could get paid for that now.
Yeah, I can't. But that's a whole nother.
They made us stick our bare feet in paint. That was disgusting. I remember that. I remember being so grossed out by that. I was like, why? They did. They actually made us like.
And that's why you work with digital paint. And not real paint.
I'm like, this is gross.
Anyway,
let's talk about.
Let's move on. Hey, guess what? We finally have a Disney Plus release date for Wish.
Okay.
People have been asking. I can't tell you how long this thing's been trending. When is Wish coming to Disney Plus? Well, we now know. Wish is finally going to release on Disney Plus on April 3rd, which happens to be the same day as the annual meeting. But they took a long time to put it out. But we're finally getting it April 3rd.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were probably waiting for this. I mean, it did not do well at the box office. It didn't have a very good score on Rotten Tomatoes. It actually was the lowest rated Disney movie in like a long time.
$251.4 million global box office on a budget that was up to about $200 million.
Yeah,
not a win.
But what they'll do is they'll be like, "Oh, this is the most streamed Disney movie ever on Disney Plus," Yeah. And they'll justify it that way.
That's what they'll do. But the thing is, it ties into other things they've been doing lately. And there's this whole discussion about, Disney's box office and how some of it's their own fault. And part of it involves the fact that they trained their audience to wait for Disney Plus. And I think when a lot of the films are coming out, they do very well on Disney Plus later because people don't have enough interest in them to go to them theatrically. But they'll watch them when they can watch it included with their subscription on Disney Plus. And that is a problem. But the only way you're going to change that is to make movies that people are willing to go to the box office for.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, they released Five Nights at Freddy's on Paramount the same day it was released to the theaters, and it still did really well because people wanted to see it. So that was that one. I'm trying to think what else is going on here. This is a funny one for you. So there was a woman, and she was over at Port Orleans, Riverside.
Drinking?
She might have been drinking.
I'm sure she was.
Because if you've been there, that the Sassagoula River, that the one that you can get on the ferry and go from the resort to Disney Springs and back, and then they have the waterway there. She was in the waterway, swimming in the water, which not smart for a plethora of reasons. But not only that, she was topless.
At Disney? Oh my God.
I don't know if it was a drinking issue or a cultural issue, like she's from another country and it's okay there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was a cultural issue.
But she was in the nasty water in Florida that's not treated, where they have alligators and critters around.
They have brain-eating amoebas and possibly boob-eating amoebas.
Well, they have like skin.
And leeches.
Yes, and all kinds of...
Would you like leeches on your boobs? They're
wouldn't. Not the kind of tassels. These are not the tassels you're looking for. No. But so she went tits out at Disney and went swimming in the river.
Could have been worse. Could have been tits up at Disney.
Yeah, well, that's happened too. But this case, she was partially skinny dipping in the river, and someone caught it on camera.
Oh boy.
You never know what you're going to see when you visit a Disney park.
Yeah. Well, there were like naked people running around Epcot before and Disney Springs. And,
you know what else you don't know what you're going to get? You never know what you're going to smell at a Disney park.
That is very true, especially if someone's been drinking heavily.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been there. We've had some lovely... Now, we know that Disney does, pump out some positive smells into the hotels onto Main Street. You've probably been in lines for rides where you've smelled other things you wish to God you hadn't smelled. But But Disney is going to do a new attraction for you at Magic Kingdom in the circus area. And it's going to the Storyboard Circus area, and it's going to be Smellephants on Parade.
Smellephants on Parade.
It's a scratch and sniff scavenger hunt.
So this looks cheap.
Yeah.
That's my first reaction to it. It's like, okay, we just have some elephant statuettes
that are painted to look like the set. I think they're
right.
supposed to be like, this looks like popcorn in the image.
The popcorn elephant, and then it smells like popcorn. This is this is just a time waster, I think, and it's something that they can add that is very budget conscious.
So they can say they're doing something.
Yeah. Now, apparently there's some construction going on in Animal Kingdom or something they're talking about. They filed some permits over there, so they might actually do something.
Well, they're going to have permits over there because they're going to be doing the area with the Dinoland USA.
The cheap over there,
yeah,
too.
so I would be expecting permits for that area. Now, there is some that was going to be back by where the animals are. Wasn't that where it was?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
They probably need access roads or something.
They think it's more like, something to do with, things they need for taking care of the animals in that area. But yeah.
But I was just thinking, just in general, and we've talked about this before, and we're going to constantly complain about it because, as Epic Universe shows us more and more of what they're doing, we look at stuff like this, Smellephants, and we're like, really?
Smells.
Is this the best you can do, Disney? Is this the best you can do?
They aren't giving you a check sheet that's like, we have to find like popcorn. Okay. Stinky bathroom. Okay.
Stinky
okay.
bathroom.
Flatulent fellow guest. Okay. Check.
Well, I guess if your kids smell, they have the water play area. You can hose them off over there.
Hose them off there. Yeah. So hot damn, we're getting Smellephants on Parade at the Magic Kingdom. Can't wait for that one. Other news. Oh, since we're talking about Smellephants, let's go with this one. So you know how Disney the trademarks have lapsed for some characters like Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and so on.
Yeah, they're public domain now.
Yeah, they're public domain. And because of it, we got things like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And so now we're getting a second one. Well, it's going to go even further than that. I'll let you explain it because you were doing a video on this before.
Yeah, so they're going to basically assemble the Pooniverse.
That just sounds like something dirty.
The Pooniverse.
The Pooniverse. It sounds like something like a rated R or X.
Well, this
it's
is
rated R,
definitely
but it sounds like it's rated X. X.
The Pooniverse is going to be Pooh, Blood and Honey, and also Pinocchio and Peter Pan.
I was saying the Peter Pan one in this one too.
And what else do they have in this?
The Bambi.
Bambi. Yeah, they have Bambi and whatever other public domain. Now, I don't know if they're going to. Yeah, Alice in Wonderland, I guess, is in this too. But whatever other public domain, Disney adjacent stuff they can scrape. I don't know if Steamboat Willie will be in this because
they could though.
He's up for grabs now. Can't call him Mickey Mouse. That's trademarked, but you can do the 1920s version of Mickey, the black and white version called Steamboat Willie or something, or the mouse named Willie. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll probably do something like that. Who just happens to have a steamboat. That he pilots.
You hear him whistling, and then you know your life's going to end if you hear the whistling.
Yeah, do. That's probably trademark too. You have to be very careful. I don't know if we talked about the whole trademark issue.
Not on here, we didn't.
No, Steamboat Willie is up for grabs, but also not up for grabs. You can use the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse in certain instances, but if you cross into Mickey Mouse territory, Disney technically has Mickey Mouse trademarked, locked down. So even the song, I'm sure, is probably trademarked because they have Steamboat Willie whistling the tune at the beginning of Disney movies. So they probably trademarked that too. They knew this day was coming, right? But anyway, this is what's going on with it. They said that it is Scott Chambers, who is the director, actor, producer, and they said they're going to try to build it up like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, the Pooniverse logo looks like Avengers.
It does.
It's called Monsters Assemble. And yeah, they're going to whatever they can get away with, basically. So it's kind of like the Dark Disney. Now, I would love to see this at Halloween Horror Nights.
Oh, they're not going to be able to do that.
Oh my God, that would be amazing, though.
They could, though. Oh,
they could. That
would be a total big D move, but that would be funny.
It would be the most amazing thing if they put the Pooniverse in Halloween Horror Nights, because they're always looking for these indie horror movies, and it technically is public domain. That would just really stick it to Disney, and I would love it. I'd be there for that. I'd make a special trip just for that.
There you go. So that's coming as well. We mentioned, I just thought that was a nice transition from Smellephants on Parade. Other news we have is so X-Men 97. It's supposed to premiere tomorrow on Disney Plus. If you go out to our D-Res podcast, you have one that's kind of tangibly related, whatever you say that.
Yeah, I actually got one of the artists of the 90s X-Men comic books to come on. That's Art T-Bear. And we talked about X-Men in the 90s, what it was like to work on X-Men in the 90s, and our thoughts without having seen X-Men 97 on that. But speaking of X-Men 97, there's controversy because the showrunner was fired a week before the series dropped.
It was fired the day before the premiere because they had like a Hollywood premiere on the 13th, and he was apparently just gone. Like all social media was wiped. It's Bo DeMeo, and they parted ways. A representative said they parted ways. He wasn't fired. They parted ways, but he parted ways and then deleted all his social media. We're not sure why, because he did do season 1 and he's already written season 2, and he was working on ideas for season 3. Now there is a theory, and it's not proven, that it was partially related to an OnlyFans account that he had. But again, we don't know if that's the case because there are other celebrities that have, shirtless pictures posted and they aren't canceled. So we don't know what happened exactly. They're not telling anyone, but we know that he's off of it and he didn't go to the premiere and he's not allowed to do any of the promotion for it. And his social medias were gone.
Yeah. Now, apparently his Instagram came back, but it was since this happened, but he cleaned a bunch of stuff off of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that does seem to lend into that.
Yeah.
Theory.
So he's, let's just say that I went to his Instagram and I went to his Twitter looking for information about X-Men 97 because I actually was excited for this show, having, grown up watching the original X-Men back in the 90s. But he had a lot of like shirtless pictures of himself on there, and it was kind of uncomfortable. It was like, okay, here's a picture of Wolverine, and then there's like 3 pictures of me doing crunches and pull-ups. I'm like, yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little weird. You don't cross the streams. You shouldn't cross the streams. But it was his own personal account, not the actual promotional account for the show. But Disney,
they
think they own your social presence too when you work for them. I mean, that's the truth.
I can tell you, at one point in time, I don't know if that's the case now, if you signed contracts or agreed, there's clauses in it that you weren't allowed to say certain things on social media. You had to behave a certain way. You weren't allowed to disparage or, that you weren't allowed to do anything that could reflect poorly on the Walt Disney Company. And this is from somebody who has worked in and around or has signed, NDAs and other potentially, different paperwork, legal paperwork with them. So I don't want to get into what it was, but we've signed several things, and they sometimes had clauses associated with it.
Yeah, sometimes.
So I don't know what's going on, but he apparently is no longer on that show. Also, another thing I thought was kind of funny this week was if you're waiting for a National Treasure 3 film with Nicolas Cage, he basically said that's not happening now.
Yeah, and he said that, if you're looking for treasure, it's not with Disney.
Yeah, so
that's pretty blunt.
If you're a National Treasure fan, it was supposed to be rumored that he was going to do a film. Instead, they did a show, and it was National Treasure: Edge of History. And they brought back other actors from the first movie, but they did not bring back Nicolas Cage. People were very upset. I think he was probably not too happy about it either. And then it did not do well. It did not receive very good reviews. But Nicolas Cage was still supposed to be returning for a third film, and he was asked about it during an interview for another project. And during it, he said, basically, no, there is no National Treasure 3. If you want to find treasure, don't look at Disney, okay? It's not there.
Yeah, so that sounds like he's definitely on the outs with Disney. That's what it sounds
I have
like.
No idea what happened.
But
it was Jerry Bruckheimer, and he's still tied to Pirates, I believe.
Yeah, but that whole thing, because I know Bruckheimer was trying to get Johnny Depp back.
He was.
And I don't know if just everything went south or what happened.
Don't know either. So that's what he had to say about that. In other news, we're going to talk about the fact that Six Flags shareholders voted in favor of merging with Cedar Fair.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so explain this to me. So Cedar Fair owns, they're
Cedar Point,
and they own a bunch, but then everybody knows Six Flags.
Well, between the two of them, if combined, they're going to have 43 locations between the two of them.
Oh, wow.
So they voted, the shareholders voted at Six Flags to definitely combine with Cedar Fair because it was up for vote. There's 6.4 million shares in favor and only 195,471 against, with 158,821 abstaining. So now it's going to go to the Department of Justice to make sure they can move forward with it.
I think they'll be able to because there's so much other competition that it's,
Yeah. So they said Cedar Fair has 16 locations. Six Flags has 27. So they'll have combined 43 locations. Wow. And it's basically they're doing it to survive. We see this a lot with media. We're going to see it a lot, I think, with streaming platforms shortly, that in order to survive, you need to merge together to make your platforms larger so that you can withstand the economic headwinds that are going to hit you.
Well, I mean, look at the pandemic and look at how much of a hit theme parks took during the pandemic because, and like SeaWorld, I guess SeaWorld offered to buy them a couple of years ago. SeaWorld took a massive hit, I know, during the pandemic. Yeah,
they said that they were offered to be bought by SeaWorld before. Yeah, so yes, Knott's Berry Farm is part of Cedar Fair, Cedar Entertainment.
Yeah, now it wasn't when I went. I went in the early 90s when I lived in California. We used to go to Knott's Berry Farm and Magic Mountain, which now I guess they would be under the same
probably, yeah.
Thing, because that was a Six Flags. So I used to go to both of those parks. But yeah, they always had Peanuts. They had Camp Peanuts there, which was like their kiddie land, and it was fun.
So when the Cedar Fair got it, they got the rights to use Peanuts too, probably. So yeah, Camp Snoopy and stuff. So yeah, they sold it. It was sold to this group in Cedar Fair Group in '97. So yes, it is owned by the same company.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see more of this. I know that here in Pennsylvania, Hershey has been buying up a lot of the theme parks. And that kind of
they've been trying to buy Knoebels.
Knoebels
thankfully keeps telling them no. They need to keep telling them.
Yeah, that's a family-owned business. Knott's Berry Farm until the late 90s was family-owned. But yeah, I'm concerned because Hershey Park is known for price gouging.
Yeah, Hershey Park is fun. But Hershey Park also... I remember we were going to get food there, and the prices there were worse than Disney. So that's saying something.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they had I remember they had like a family hot dog meal.
It was hot dogs and drinks. And it was like $100.
It was like $100.
And that was like probably 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I guess that's the downside to the consolidation. Now, what's going to be interesting though is Universal. You look at their business model and how it is pivoting from Disney's, where, they have their big Orlando and California parks, but they're also going to be building parks in like Vegas and Texas
and Great Britain.
So they're going to be doing like micro parks. Disney, I guess if they were smart, I could see them doing just like single land little mini parks. Like they were going to do that before.
They could do like, one theme park instead of having 2 or 3. And they could put it somewhere like in the Midwest or something in the middle.
Yeah.
Because they already have them in other countries, Yeah,
just do a Midwest. Like they were going to do the DC park. I remember they were going to do that. And that I think would have been amazing. And some of those attractions actually wound up in other parts of Disney. But like, that would be kind of cool because then you could reach maybe your Midwest consumers that only go to Disney World once every 5 or 10 years because of the cost of travel, but they might go every year again, annual pass. Now, the downside to that is you'd have to close it down during the winter, probably.
Well, I don't know. Some of the ones overseas, like in Japan and stuff, they're open in the winter. France, they have winters there. Well, depending on where you put it, how far north and things like that, because the United States is quite large and the climate varies drastically from the top to bottom.
Well, what you could do is you actually could plan for that and have more indoor attractions, or be like, okay, we're going to build some resorts on property too, and those are going to be open year round.
Well, they also, I want to point out, in Asia and other countries, they have indoor theme parks. Like they're completely indoors.
Well, Mall of America has
the theme park indoors. There's always that option. Then you can run it year round. The resorts can just, have different sections, and then they can be just like a walkway that goes into the building. There's different things they could do. They're not gonna. Especially when you figure out that when half the money they're allocating to theme park expansion is only actually going to theme park expansion.
Yeah, it's going to maintenance mostly.
A lot of it's maintenance, which we said was probably going to be the case.
Yeah.
A lot of it's going to maintenance. But about half of it is going to actual expansions at the parks. And so you're talking $30 billion among 7 parks over 10 years. That's not that much. all things considered.
No.
So, so yeah, there's a Six Flags merger, which is going to make them a bigger threat. I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to move on to the discussion about there's some stuff going on involving the proxy battle with Disney against activist investors like Tryon Group, Nelson Peltz, etc. Before we get to that, I want to mention that people are upset because as Disney is right-sizing and pivoting and trying to cut costs,
Right.
they're starting to learn that maybe it's probably not a good idea to crap out 101 different Marvel projects that are subpar, incomplete, and not the characters people wanted, because now the rumor is that Bob Iger likely canceled Eternals 2, as well as another Captain Marvel movie and an Ant-Man 4.
Well, look, the box office performance or underperformance of these movies has absolutely put them in the crosshairs with investors like Nelson Peltz. Had their movies performed well and had they been getting a return on shareholder value and all that, we wouldn't be having this discussion now. We wouldn't be having this proxy war because they'd be like, oh, you're fine. Because Peltz actually gave him an extra year.
But not just that. Perlmutter was one of the reasons why Marvel did so well. He was the one that put it into play.
Yeah.
And he's teamed up with Peltz.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot going on here, but basically Disney can't afford to make any more multi-million-dollar blunders. They can't.
Well, this is leading us into what we're going to talk about, which is the proxy war. Now, last time we did a video, at the time we recorded, we talked about the political-esque campaign video that Disney released that reminded us of like the mudslinging ads you see with politicians, and we were very disappointed, is the word I would use, that Disney would take it to that level. This is after they paraded out the great-grandchildren of Walt Disney, including Abigail Disney, who said that great Uncle Walt was a fascist, and has often complained about the payment structure for executives, including Bob Iger, at the Walt Disney Company. So they pulled her out. They're trying to use whatever they can. After the video, they released their white paper. They're claiming they made some money on things that I don't think I think there's some creative accounting and going into play. You can find that white paper on there. I don't have it put up in front of me.
They followed with the SEC.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can find that information. It's out there. And then they are, of course, really targeting. They did a little bit of stuff on Blackwell's Capital, but the majority of the paper was targeting Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo and making a lot of digs at Rizzullo and Ike Perlmutter, especially. They keep going on about Ike Perlmutter's vendetta against Bob Iger, but I would argue that Bob Iger also had a vendetta against Ike Perlmutter, which is what led to the situation in the first place. And they act like Perlmutter is Voldemort or something. It's absolutely ridiculous. But they had that paper out. And after that, we had different people coming out saying, oh, no, back Bob Iger and the board. And now George Lucas, the one who created Star Wars.
Shocked me. George Lucas. Yeah. So George Lucas came out this morning in favor of Bob Iger and the Disney board and said that, he trusts Bob Iger's leadership. And this is after Bob Iger apparently knifed him in the back with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, but when he apparently Iger let Lucas believe that they were going to use his treatments for the episodes 7, 8, 9.
Yes.
Okay. He thought they were going to use his thing. He agreed to sell it with that in mind. Iger knew he thought that, but then they kept saying that it was in the contract that we could choose not to use it. And apparently, when George was informed they weren't going to use his treatments and outlines, he was in a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy and Abrams and somebody else, and he was very disappointed and upset because he was led to believe that they were going to use his outlines, which is one of the reasons he sold it to them. And then Bob Iger says, well, I regret some of the things I did. Bob Iger, he said in his book that Lucas was upset and that he kind of, let him think that, and it was probably a bad idea. So that's when George Lucas called them white slavers.
Yes.
It's like selling your children to white slavers, which he did apologize for later after, people got mad at him for saying white slavers.
But then a couple of years after that, he was doing a Zoom call with his wife, who is involved with Starbucks. I can't remember if she's like the board of directors or what she is with Starbucks, but they were doing a Zoom chat with these kids, and a kid asked him about Finn, and he basically said, Yeah,
No,
that's
it wasn't Finn. It was about Star Wars in general.
Star Wars in general. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you because the first 6 were mine, but after that, that's all Disney's thing. Like, I don't have anything to do with it anymore. And then he just started to go down this road, and we were watching this Zoom call, and they pulled it down.
It's been deleted
because they had kids in it, and that's probably like you don't want to do that. But she's kind of looking at him like, shut up, George, shut up, George. And he just kind of went into what seemed like the beginnings of a tirade against Disney. And so it's shocking to see him be like, oh yeah, hey, Disney's fine. Now, what could be part of it is he put Kathleen Kennedy in charge of Lucas. He personally picked Kathleen. Everybody thinks Kathleen Kennedy came with Bob Iger. She did not. That was George Lucas who put her in charge. And one of the things that Nelson Peltz and Jay Rizzullo said they were going to bring to the board if they get put on the board is oversight, and they're going to review every studio head and every project, and they might be looking to chop Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but Kathleen Kennedy was in charge of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
She was in charge of the Willow, which immediately was pulled down within months of being on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
She was overseeing Star Wars, and quite frankly, they're all going down the tubes. And it's sad because Willow, Indiana Jones, and Star Wars were all big parts of our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heartbreaking to see what it's become. And I was doing research for some other things regarding this George Lucas scenario. And when I was looking into it, there are many news outlets talking about how Star Wars under Disney is lazy. Yeah. And it's definitely, I think one of the reasons George Lucas was upset was he saw what they were doing with A Force Awakens. He was kind of like, well, there's nothing new here. It's because he was always, something my one friend had said about to me. He said, with Star Wars when we were kids, you knew every movie you were going to get some new world, some amazing new creatures, some amazing new something that tech, something that was going to be very toyetic and very fun and very, imaginative and exciting for kids and things like that. And when it came to A Force Awakens, it was a rehash of A New Hope. They got a little bit better in Rian Johnson's Last Jedi with some new areas and some new creatures, but it wasn't enough. And The Last Jedi basically caused a rift in the fandom between the ideologies, and didn't help that Rian Johnson was proud of the fact that he likes to make divisive films. Yeah. Probably not the person you want to put in a franchise that's that's already pre-existing and has a lot of fans. But it has been going down in popularity. The toys are not selling as well as they used to. It has been dwindling.
Yes.
And that's just fact. I'm sorry. And now we're going to be new movies. They are going to have new movies, and maybe that'll revive it. But if they don't learn anything from past mistakes, that's not going to happen.
No, and that's that. Yeah. I mean, they've definitely damaged Star Wars. Even Galaxy's Edge. Like, Galaxy's Edge should have been a slam dunk. And
it's a Moroccan flea market.
It's a Moroccan
with a couple
flea
rides.
Market. It was supposed to be the original trilogy. That's what they originally designed it as. And then Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy.
Imagineers came out and said so.
Yes. They decided after The Force Awakens, they started working on that. They're like, nope, we're going to make it all about sequel trilogy. But so if you actually had that land and you had Tatooine and you had Endor and you had Hoth and you had attractions, and you can see parts of it because, again, it makes no sense for them to have original trilogy walkers.
Why do they have AT-ATs in the Rise of Resistance ride? That makes no sense
because
at all.
It probably was supposed to be Endor, and that was probably the Star Destroyer
amazing.
for Endor.
One of the reasons
animatronic Ewoks.
I love Ewoks. Ewoks are my thing. I love them. Like, before I took Tom and our kids to Walt Disney World the first time, because I grew up going there, I kept telling him about Star Tours, and I said it's like the Ewok village. It's like Endor, and they have a big walker. And I don't think he understood what I meant. I kept saying, no, like, it's a walker, like a full-size walker.
Yeah.
No, in the backside, it's a prop. But I kept saying, I loved it. When I was a kid, I always get a picture taken in front of it because I've been a huge Star Wars fan since I was little. I mean, they actually have a Star Wars character named after me in the books because I used to write fan letters to the authors, and the one author liked my name and put me in a book.
That's true.
I mean, I love Star Wars. Like, you don't understand. Until recently. And he didn't believe me. And then he got there. He's like, oh my God, it is a full-size walker. I'm like, I told you so.
Well, we didn't have
love
it.
Walkers. Ooh, love them.
I grew up.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Sorry,
cool.
we're just one in our we're looking at the one in the studio right now.
But I grew up going to Disneyland, and for us, Star Tours was in Tomorrowland. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is kind of weird. It is, yes. But it's in Tomorrowland.
It does not have a theming that the one at Disney World does.
It's very generic.
There's no at there.
No, there is not. But you walk in. I mean, it's basically the same thing. We had the the animatronics on the inside and everything. But yeah, so I was kind of like, wow, that's actually like full scale. And then they had the speeder and the
yes, and you can sit on it. I don't know if you still can, but you used to be able to get pictures with it.
I think it's gone. Last time we were there, it seemed like it was gone.
It was awesome. I loved it. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. So speaking of Star Tours, you are going to get 3 new films in Star Tours. 3 with I think Ahsoka. I forget what else. There was like they're tied Mandalorian and something else. They're tied to the Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
And that's going to be on April 5th, I believe. But so now we got back to the proxy battle. We got off topic. I'm sorry. I'm easily distracted by Ewoks and Star Wars. So now George Lucas, they're bringing George Lucas out. It seems very desperate on Disney's part that they keep bringing, like, we're going to go get the grandkids and we're going to go get George Lucas and we're going to try to get whoever we can get. Who people think we have a beef with to suddenly look like, oh, we're united on this front. I don't know what they're promising people, but it's very weird. It's like it's opposite day. And then we still don't know what's going on. We know there's 2 seats on the board that I think for the most part, sometimes 3, depending if you're Blackwell or Tryon, that are being targeted.
Yeah.
They're being very, 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 very scared of this. For just 2 seats, they're so worried about it.
I think this has to do with Jay Rizzullo. Jay Rizzullo was, well, a couple of things. One, it's going to be Ike Perlmutter's revenge because Nelson Peltz is controlling his shares. But Jay Rizzullo was next in line to be CEO of Disney, and he could do the job. And they're really trying to smear him as being like out of touch. And like he was there as long as Bob Iger.
Well, he wasn't out of touch enough to sell his Disney shares and then go buy Funko.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's an Iger thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the problems that the company is facing at this point in time can be tied back to Bob Iger. But here, we didn't tell you what Lucas said. Here's what Lucas said real quick. And then I'm going to mention one more thing before we wrap this up. Creating magic is not for amateurs. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my longtime admiration for the iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. Mm-hmm. Remember, it's Walt Disney World, not Bob Iger World. Lucas said in a statement Tuesday, when Bob recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better. Sure. I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record of driving long-term value that fell off a cliff before he came back and has stayed down to the lowest levels it's been since he came back. And it's just now creeping up. It's still not to the levels it was before he left. I have voted all my shares for Disney's 12 directors and urge other shareholders to do the same. And the issue we have too is a lot of people are upset because they keep mentioning Bob Iger on the board. Bob Iger isn't the one up for replacement.
No.
Well, he is.
Well, yeah, I think, and we talked about this before, I think he wants to have someone he can control because if you get Rizzullo and Peltz in there, they might be like, no, let's have somebody that Bob Iger's never infected before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are 4 candidates, allegedly, they're all internal, that are up for the CEO position, according to insiders.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you who they are real quick, and this will be the last thing we talk about because it's already been 40 minutes. So the 4 people that are up for the position and are supposed to be shadowing Bob and spending time with Bob is Dana Walden, who's the co-chairman of Disney Entertainment. Dana is the one who handles like the television type, Disney Plus, Hulu, that kind of stuff. She's also the one that went on some interview and said that they passed on shows that probably would have done really well for ABC because they were too white. Yeah. Co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, Alan Bergman, is the number 2 option. He is actually in charge of the film end of the entertainment. He's actually Disney's representative on the Motion Picture Association Board of Directors. The 3rd option, obviously, is Josh D'Amaro, who's very popular with fans. He's the chairman of Disney Parks Experiences and Products.
I want him to stay there and to be given enough money to actually do something.
Yeah. He's one of the choices, but given that Bob Chapek went the way it did, I don't think they'll pick him.
No.
And then the final one, which was kind of surprising, is the chairman of ESPN and sports content, Jimmy Pitaro. And he actually has been only the chairman of ESPN for like a year. But he came to Disney in 2010 as the co-president of Disney Interactive. And since Disney's trying to push sports, but they're also trying to push into things like Fortnite and digital spaces, it kind of makes sense that he's in the running as well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird though. What I'm afraid of with that is that it's going to go down like Hasbro, which is trying to pivot from being a toy company to a video game company. And I'm afraid they're going to do that with Disney too. Like everything is going to be virtual from now on, you know? So yeah, you got to watch it with these people, but they wanted to split Disney up into the Blackwells wanted to split into 3 parts and have
3 companies. Yeah, that doesn't, I'm like, no. So the voting is supposed to conclude, and we're going to get an answer on April 3rd. Prepare to have lots and lots of more stuff come up between now and then, because Disney's desperately trying to keep the control they have with the people they have. I mean, Iger's still going to be there. The board is still mostly going to be the board. It's just we're talking a couple seats. I don't understand why they're getting so bent out of shape, especially since one of the people running is an ex-Disney person. Like he was the CEO of the company. Yeah. He, clearly has been, and he was at Disney 30 years. Like I don't get why they're so, I don't want to say like they're freaking out basically.
Yeah, they are freaking out. There's something else going on, and we're probably never going to get the full story until after this is in the rearview mirror. But there's definitely something else going on. Bob Iger seems too desperate to keep these people off the board, and again, one of them being somebody who was in like Flynn with the company for decades. And why are they so afraid? Why are they so afraid of these two guys being on the board?
But they are. So there's what we have for you today. Please check out piratesandprincesses.net because we're constantly putting up new articles. We also put things on there like, hey, new merchandise at Shop Disney. Like they have the new sequin colored Loungefly ears and bag is hydrangea. And it's a pretty blue. There's some new bags. There's some different things. Loungefly is going to have some new purses coming out for the Little Mermaid's 35th anniversary. Hey, they're bringing Rainbow Bright too, which isn't Disney. But there's all kinds of stuff we cover over there. You can go check it out. Video games, things like that. So, are we ready to wrap it up?
We're ready to wrap it up.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks again for listening. More news and videos are available on our website at www.piratesandprincesses.net. Our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. If you like the show, please consider subscribing and leaving us a positive review on iTunes and other podcast platforms. This podcast is a production of Clownfish Studios LLC and Web Reef Media, and we'll see you next time.